All right, welcome everybody. This is the third session of the Lynn Tree Committee. We do record these meetings and post them on YouTube and on our website for free for people to catch up or watch or go back to old meetings and review what we've discussed. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. We'll go through the agenda and some slides, and then we'll have a lot of time this meeting for discussion if people have stuff they want to talk about. Um, Let me just make this full screen and share. You know what? Maybe I can have it be over here. Let's see. Screen two. So are you folks seeing that? Oh, but it's over there. Sorry about this. We're in a new office. You might have noticed. This is an update I wanted to give folks. The planning department in the City of Lynn is now in room 204. So if you come straight through the front doors of City Hall and take a left, that's where we are now. We used to be in 303. So um, people will help you out, but if you can't find us, we are down on the second floor, which is kind of the entry level from the front of City Hall. So I'm trying to see if I can see the chat. I'm going to stop sharing and actually bring this back over here because that's not going to work for me. Uh, all right, share. We'll just do screen one and we'll do it this way. So I can't see the chat while I'm talking, but if you unmute and catch my attention, I'll be able to answer things. We do have a discussion session, so let's just. Are you seeing the slide or this presenter view now? Can someone let me know?
The presenter view.
Oh, oh no, lots of problems. Oh, use presenter view. How about now? Still not correct. It was better before, wasn't it? All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Let's do this. Is that better?
Yes.
Thanks, Hennessy. I really appreciate that. So, this is the third meeting of the Lynn Tree Committee, and we want to give some community updates and then a little intro for anyone who might be new onto what we're trying to do together. And I do have a 5-minute update on the Lynn Woods Reservation and the fires and kind of what I'm doing in my role to add some information and help where I can. Then we'll get into some urban forestry program updates. We're really excited to share about our fall planting season, ask for you guys to help if you can with our spring 2025 planting season and share what we've been doing with youth. We've been really successful with networking across different schools and individual youth, and we're working with developing some early career programming, which is a big part of our work. And then we'll have 30 minutes for public discussion. So I won't be yapping along too much, and we can hear from you guys. So I'm excited for that. And I'm kind of trying to build these as I go. So I'll include information about the next meeting so that people have more advance notice. This meeting, we were having email troubles yesterday, but also it was sent out late. We've just been doing a lot with the new trees that we planted and with the fires. So we got that out a little late. So thank you all for being here, even with only like 1 day of notice on the invitation. I really appreciate that. And sorry to those who may be watching the recording who weren't able to make it. But we always record these and you can catch up and send me an email anytime. So to get into it, if it will let me, I like to start with community updates. If you guys have something before the next meeting that you'd like me to share that's related to trees, I'm happy to do that or promote that. Right now, I know that the City of Lynn DPW is doing one more park cleanup in November, so that'll be on the 23rd at the Bennett Street Playground. And then the Lynn Tech Festival of Trees is happening now, so check that out on Facebook. They've posted their dates. There's a few more dates for that. That's not really urban forestry, but it's related to trees, so I thought it would be fun to tell people about. And then I go to this monthly free online event through, it's advertised by the New England ISA, but it's really through, I think it's UMass Extension that does these Urban Forestry Today webinars. They're really fantastic if you want to nerd out about, super technical urban forestry stuff. It's a great place to learn. And they are doing a webinar on December 5th about runoff reduction related to urban trees. So reducing that water that's just skating across the surface and not going deep into the soil for our trees and how trees interact with that. That'll be a really good one. So, this group is a citizen-oriented group. Normally, they're citizen-led as well. So, eventually, we would like to, have folks stepping into more leadership roles. But right now, the Lynn Tree Committee is open to everyone to come and kind of tell us what they think, ask their questions about urban forest activities and management, because we will be writing an urban forest plan. So, we want to have what the residents think incorporated into that plan, and we want to answer as many questions as we can. So. This will be an advisory group to mainly myself, the urban forestry fellow, as we create our first urban forest plan and go through these large grants that I'll discuss. Put a little timeline. We are in November. This is our fourth meeting and open to feedback about the group at any time. Um, our draft mission, this is open to edits, is to help Lynn's urban forest. And, there's a lot going on. We have me in the planning department. We have a bunch of staff in the Department of Public Works. We have our tree warden, who is also right now our Lynn Woods Park Ranger, who's quite busy right now, and other agencies who all intersect with this work. And we want to engage Lynn residents, people with different lived experiences, people with different opinions about trees in this work as we go along. So that was the background about this group. I'm going to get into a little update on the Lynn Woods Reservation and the fires. So the best place to stay updated on this is going to be the City of Lynn Fire Department's Facebook page. They've done 8 really thorough updates on kind of what's been happening with the Lynn Woods fire. Please do not, and tell other people that you might think might be accessing the woods, please don't access the Lynn Woods Reservation at this time. It's closed to the public for a reason. Trees are a very large part of that reason. I'll show you a picture on the next slide of a tree that would be considered a tree of concern for people to be walking under. But essentially, what happens is the air quality is really quite poor. You want to be closing your windows if you live near the area. You don't want to be letting the smoke in. The rain today, tomorrow, and hopefully through the weekend will help. But I've learned, and I'm new to this topic, that it's not quite as simple as extinguishing a wildfire with like a spitting rain. You really need several days of soaking rain to put out the heat that's under and in the soil. A lot of the brush has burned off, so the fuel on top has burned off, and the fire is somewhat contained, but this doesn't mean that the fire's out. And even areas that appear to not be burning anymore, if you're not a qualified professional, you may not be able to accurately assess the risk of those trees that have been burned that are still standing, where they may have been burned around the base and the roots, which are structurally important, but they've not burned up top. So there's quite a bit of weight at the top of that tree that could fall unpredictably. So that's why we have to keep the Lynn Woods closed, even if the fire appears to be out. So trees are still falling in the woods now. I was able to go out and be in communication with the Linwoods Ranger, who is our tree warden, and the fire chief, Dan Sullivan. They're doing a fantastic job. I would really love to thank them and their staff and everyone they're working with for the response on this fire. But this is a picture of a tree that is one of the trees of concern. Just to show you guys, like you would not be safe walking in the Lynn Woods right now because there are many trees like this where they've failed at a midpoint and they're still quite a high risk of falling. And they're right near, this is right next to the Pennybrook Trail. So they're along the major roads, and many of the side trails have not been surveyed for what the actual damage extent has been. Part of what I've done is I ordered some books about brush fires, wildland fires, and tried to understand this issue from a scientific perspective. So I have some of those books in my office. If you'd like to come down and take a look, you're welcome to do that. But these are some of the recommendations. If you want to pick them up at the library, you could do that too. This is just what I'm going to be reading. And then I also happen to run a regional network of urban foresters, and I've reached out to both them and the Mass Tree Wardens hey, like we're seeing these increasing fires. How are you guys dealing with this in your communities? I've gotten some really fantastic responses from people like Alex Sherman in Springfield, Mass, who is actually applied for some state funding to write fire mitigation plans for some of his parks in Springfield. So these are the types of things that we want to have a professional community, like really drawing off each other and planning for the future, as we can expect these to be more frequent. Frank, I see your hand. Do you want to ask your question now? Feel free to unmute if you do.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm in the car. You're not sharing your screen anymore. It's
Oh,
at
uh,
least I'm not seeing it. Is anyone else seeing her screen anymore?
Yeah, I
I,
see.
I I can see the screen.
Oh, you can. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's just me in the car. I saw it previously, so I'll try to figure it out. Sorry about that.
oh, no
Thanks.
worries. Sorry about that. Definitely want to hear about any technical difficulties and try to help with those. I know on mobile it can be a little tough, and I know a lot of people are in their cars right now. So, in the future, we might adjust the timing of these meetings. If anyone has recommendations of times that would work better for them, I could try to take those requests in. But yes, I am still trying to share the screen. And so, Frank, I'll just lower your hand so that if anyone else raises a hand, we can keep on going. But yeah, I studied at the University of New Hampshire. They taught us a little bit about fire ecology, and I know a little bit about that. I'm not going to spend too much time about that, but I am just going to say that you know, my role in the City of Lynn as the Urban Forestry Fellow is mostly to write our urban forest plan and plan for the future and to like help with supporting with science and things like that. I am a certified arborist, so I can look at a tree and kind of uh, have more thoughts than the average person about it, but I am actually not equipped with skill, experiences, or licenses to like go in and start mitigating the risk in the woods myself. So just wanted to clarify that for people. You can think of it almost like, a natural resource professional or an arborist is sort of similar to like a doctor, but for trees. And if I was a doctor, like I could be maybe a psychologist and I can do cognitive behavioral therapy for general populations. That doesn't mean that I can treat like acute specific illnesses. Like I wouldn't be able to necessarily treat like acute schizophrenia as that regular kind of um, yes, psychologist. So you can think of it that way. I'm not a wildland firefighting expert, but I do know a lot of people who are. So what I'll be doing in response to the fires is trying to direct people to the Lynn Fire Department's website for updates and the city's official advisories. But behind the scenes, I'm actually gathering all the science on how we should respond to these going forward. So that's a little bit of what I can do. Um, Let me just go to my last slide about the fires. We're not the only ones who are dealing with this. There's a fire map you can look at that shows that, and the news, you've probably seen in the news, there's been many more fires than is normal for this month of the year, even in Massachusetts. They're more severe than normal. But when you compare us to Western states, a lot of which have had hotshot teams and prescribed fire regimes for a long time. The Southeast also has this. So, like, think Florida and Georgia, they have kind of prescribed fires to reduce fuel loads over time. Um, we're dealing with what they would consider to be small fires. They're dealing with like 25,000 acre fires. We're dealing with a 440 acre fire, which is very large. And what we're seeing is we're seeing more fires approaching suburban and urban areas in the Northeast than we have before. So that's really the status update is that there is expertise on this, but even individual fires have unique fire behavior for their ecoregion. So I'm using a lot of fancy terms, but basically I will be researching how Massachusetts cities should respond in terms of tree risk mitigation and in terms of, like if there's any potential for salvage harvests where you kind of take the timber from the tops of those trees that have broken on the bottom and you actually try to sell that timber so that you can pay for the cost of removing those trees and mitigating the risk of hazard. This is all way too much detail. Sorry for going all the way in. I think people are very interested in the fire, and I've got a lot of questions about about it. So I just wanted to show that we're not the only people who have experienced this. It is related to our very extended drought that we have been in and that has been declared by the state. So we can talk more about the fire in the public discussion if people would like, but I will move straight along into more of my regular updates about what kind of my position does on a daily. So we have three projects. Most of you on the call have seen this before. The large grant is the Arbor Day Foundation Inflation Reduction Act grant. That's what allows me to be here. 3-year grant. We're going to plant 150 trees. We're going to make an urban forest plan, and we're going to have a really great youth program. We also have two smaller grants that will support planting of trees and preparation of tree pits, and we have a tree health survey. So these are the three grant projects we have running right now. You don't need to remember that, but it's quite an investment in urban forestry, so we'll hope to do a good job. This yellow area are the census tracts where the Arbor Day Foundation grant can be used. So I mainly need to work within this yellow boundary in the city of Lynn. That doesn't mean I can't work holistically across the whole city, so I still want to hear anything about a tree anywhere in the city boundary. But this is where I can plant trees right now. And we did that. We did it with basically a Pulaski and a truck we borrowed from the DPW and some volunteers, and basically we did it with our bare hands. So we planted 32 trees across wards 1, 3, 4. Maybe there was one in 5 and 6. And we hope to plant even more in the spring. So the fall planting season extended from October 22nd to November 7th, which is very tight. That's really good. We did a great job. And I just want to thank everyone who helped, mainly the Department of Public Works. They set up ROCA, so that's the youth and their crew member, I mean their crew leader, Nick, who's awesome. They helped us plant the first 3 trees of this effort, and we planted 32 in total. Our goal was to plant 30, so we didn't not meet our goal. We went above our goal. And we do have an interactive map that I've made. This link does actually work. This is the confusing part. I can send this out and let me know. You probably can't see it unless I bring it over here. Can you see a black screen that says please sign in right now? Yes, okay, I see the nod. So it says please sign in, but if I actually hit cancel twice, I don't have to sign in. So I don't know how to undo that bug. I'm not that good of an IT expert. But we do have this planting dashboard where you can actually open it up on your computer. You can zoom into a tree, any tree that's these green dots here. You can click on the tree and then you can see a picture of it. You can see what species it is. You can see the address. You can see the size, the condition, the date it was planted, and the season it was planted, and the number in order of planting of the grant that we planted this tree. So there were 5 in High Rock Park. We did a bunch on Atlantic Street, which really needed them. You know, some of the trees I did take a picture of at night, so we might want to go take a new picture of this eastern redbud that we planted. So I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I am saying that it's pretty cool, and I will send the link out. But you do have to remember to hit cancel twice, or you will not be able to see this, and it will track our progress towards our goal of 150 trees by year 3 of this grant. I can also build things in like this that tracks our biodiversity of our planting. So there's a rule of thumb in urban forestry where you don't want to plant more than 10% one species, 20% in one same genus, or 30% in one same family. I will be making pie charts for each of those. You can see that there's 13% tulip tree right now. That's because we've only planted 32 trees, so 4 trees is 13%. So we don't need to worry about the rule applying. We just need to avoid monocultures, which is where you plant the same species of tree all in one area. Then when you have an introduced pest, all of those trees die at the same time. We really don't want that. That's really bad for the environment. And I can talk about that more later if people want as well. But for now, I will try to get rid of this and go back to the slides. Are we seeing the spring 2025 slide? Yes. Okay, Hennessy, so you're so good with the nods. Thank you so much. So for spring 2025 tree planting, the best way that people can help is by requesting new trees. When they request a new tree now, like the sooner the better, because when they request a new tree now, I can go out to their street, I can look at the address, I can see if there is a tree pit there currently. I can identify which program has funding to plant in that tree pit. I can plan to expand that tree pit. I can plan to pull a stump out if that's needed. Really, the best thing is planning as far ahead for your next planting season as possible. So if you have neighbors and you want to share this new tree request form with them, if you want to request a new tree, even if it doesn't look like you can have one, if you want to request that someone else get a new tree at their address, you actually can do that. So, ahead of spring 2025, I would like to gather as many new tree requests as people would like to make and just start talking to people about whether and what kind of tree they would want. Um, that way I can try to identify, within the hot spots, within the planting areas, um, I would like to plant 50 trees in the spring, and I would like to see if we can do that. So I want to hear what you guys think we should go for as a goal for spring planting. Um, do keep in mind that this was really hard to do with the level of equipment and staffing we currently have, but I'm hoping that with our youth program, we can actually build that all up. And next spring, I will be helping teach people how to plant rather than planting so many trees myself. So that's the goal. We do have another grant. So this grant can start removing stumps and cutting pits now. The pits just have to be big. So a lot is going into finding out where we can do these. And these can be additional to the plantings that I can do. The blue dots are where we kind of scoped out we might be able to make some big tree pits. And this project, the Greening the Gateway Cities implementation grant, we're working on that with the DCR. It's kind of like the Mass Urban Canopy folks. We'll be planting the trees with them. So it might not always be us ordering the trees and delivering them. It might be Mark Jen or Dave Bresnahan actually planting them. They have the unique ability to plant on private property. So even if you want a tree in your backyard, you should still submit a new tree request because I can pass that to them. They can contact you directly, and anywhere in this purple area on this map, they can plant either public or private trees. So we're working on that one over the winter too. And I'm excited to report that we know that our tree survey was completed. So this was every single ward. Jim MacArthur went around and did a windshield survey, essentially looking for the management needs that we really need to address. So standing dead trees, trees that there's really something wrong with them, and we need to make sure we prioritize those to do more proactive urban forest management. Jim is a really accomplished arborist and a longtime resident in Lynn, so we're really excited that he finished that survey. Kind of while the leaves were still on, he was able to get out there and he is processing his results now. By my understanding, we do have many trees in poor condition that we will need to think about over the winter and see what we can do to make sure that if a tree is damaged to the point where it's dead, we really want to be removing and replacing that tree as soon as we can so that we can get a new tree growing where that tree was, if that makes sense. I'm super excited about this part. I have to say, we've been having some really awesome young people involved in what we're doing. This is Ava Froliciardi. You may see her around. She's been working with me. She is an Essex Technical High School arboriculture student. She's a senior, and she has been on a co-op, which means she gets paid and she comes every 2 weeks. Instead of class, she's doing actual work and gaining work experience. And so she was working with with the DPW out of the cemetery. And then for the winter, they're not growing as many plants and mulching as many beds. So we kind of worked out this thing where she actually helped me plant 12 of the trees out of the 32. And I could not have finished the planting season without her. We actually did those three trees behind us are on Locust Street, and we did 6 trees in one day. She got very good at doing this very fast, and she's a really good asset to our team. So I hope to introduce some of you to Ava. I'm really hoping she can be one of our summer program crew leaders if she's around and if we can get that going. But it's not just about the technical high school students. It's really about students who may never have heard about this career before in their life, but want to make a difference or want a healthier environment, or maybe they're in an ecology class at Lynn English. We had a lot of students. We went to Lynn Classical in October. We went to Lynn English twice in November. Um, and that was really awesome. So, a big thank you to Marissa Angeli at Lynn Public Schools, and also Mr. Bolero. He had several of his classes get to hear from me, and I kind of, I teach like what is a tree really, and why is this important? And the students were asking me things like, why don't we grow apple trees on the street? That doesn't make sense to me. Like we should be growing trees that produce food. So, the kids are really clued into what they want to see in the future. And a lot of the trees that we plant through these efforts, they will be the future stewards of those trees and the future beneficiaries of the ecosystem services of those trees. So it's always really meaningful to me to go speak with youth. I connect to them really well because I feel like I was just there. So I'd like to make career pathways so that they can have jobs like the job that I have um, one day. This one was awesome. So I'm going to tell the chicken story with this one a little bit. We just did this visit to Essex Tech. My friend and mentor, Chris Rosa, who's the tree warden of the year for 2024, he's the tree warden for the city of Malden, and he's also on the board of the Mass Tree Wardens. He went to Essex Tech when it was an arboriculture college. So he got to go back and teach their arbor students. These are the students who are arboriculture students. Some of them live in Lynn, some of them live in other communities around the North Shore. And we had a really great discussion about mental health and arboriculture. They had a student who they lost recently. It's called the Dirty Hands Project. If you feel like looking it up, it's something I think we might want to consider doing something about in Lynn. It's to commemorate a student who died, unfortunately, by suicide. So these students are really affected by mental health, but they also are passionate about trees and urban forestry. And they're fantastic. So the emotional support chicken has made an appearance. This is from my friend, an arborist who owns Green Canopy Tree Services in Ontario, Canada. Irina makes these emotional support chickens for arborists, and she gives them out and really boosts the spirits of the community. It can be very hard to deal with climate change every day, and climate grief, climate anxiety is something that a lot of young people are dealing with. So having an emotional support chicken around can be quite nice sometimes, and the value of that shouldn't be understated. Here's Ava. She made these slides today, some of these. So there's a picture of her making them, working on them. But what I'd like to propose for 2025 is that we try to get 2 urban forestry crew leaders and a crew of 4 Lynn Summer youth over the summer to be watering trees, taking care of the trees we've planted, and just learning about these types of careers. Maybe doing some tabling, community engagement, spreading the word about trees, maybe some canvassing, whatever we can put together. This is kind of a light proposal of what I could see for building out some of our efforts here via the youth. I think that involving youth in this could be a really good idea, but I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think about this as well. So now for the public discussion part, I am going to stop sharing so that I can better kind of see the chat, see people's hands, but I am going to do this thing where I actually fill this slide in with people's questions and maybe some of my answers to those questions so that people who are watching the recording later or who just are viewing the slides don't have time to watch the recording, so that they can see what we talked about. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to try to find where the presentation has scurried off to. And I'm gonna move some of these boxes so I'm ready to take notes, but yeah, I'd be happy to hear from anyone, any questions you have if we use the raise hand function or if you unmute. Just if you unmute at the same time as someone, we'll just figure out who wants to go first. So, yeah, happy to hear from you all.
Well, I'll go. First, I want to say congratulations on all the work that you've already done. This is a lot, and I think very much needed in our city. So thank you for what you're doing. Secondly, I wanted to know a little bit more about how we can get the youth programs that um, this Dirty Hands project going in our city for the young people, or how we can get more young people involved.
That's amazing. Yes, I think we definitely should pursue kind of all the avenues that are youth inspired. So, a little bit more about the Dirty Hands Project specifically. I had not heard of that before I had met Ava. She came in wearing a Dirty Hands Project hat. That is a nonprofit that was started by Ty. That was the senior who we lost. His mother started that nonprofit, and we can get that going kind of through Ava. I've also I
Mm.
connected her with the tree warden in Malden, and they are already. We're going to go there tomorrow and help Chris with his arboretum. His cemetery is an arboretum, and he's going to plant a Norway spruce in honor of Ty there. So we're already starting to get that involvement going. But if we wanted to plant some trees for Ty, or if we wanted to do other memorial tree plantings, I think it just is about talking, like, let's just talk about spring 2025 planting season and plan something up that the youth might want to do. In association with that project, they do have a website. Let me just grab that website right now, and put it in the chat for you guys.
And my second thing was, will we all be getting that link to share out? I think you said there was a survey that you were conducting or something that you wanted the community to know about. Oh, planting trees. You said you
Yes.
wanted to know which community members wanted trees near them so that
Yes.
everybody can help you get that information out to people that may want a tree.
That would be amazing. And I still need to do a little bit on my end to get it translated into multiple languages, but we do have a
Okay.
new tree request form. It's on our website, but I'll pull the link for that right now as well. Oop, I clicked the wrong. I'm a bad millennial. I'm like, I should be having all these links ready to go. So let me just find the new tree request form link, and I'll put that in the chat. It is all accessible through the Urban Forestry website, the main homepage. That's linked in this presentation. We can make flyers if people need that. So that would just be an email to me if you want a specific flyer made, and I'll put ehome@lynnma.gov in the chat so that we can all be in direct touch with each other. But yeah, anything we can do to see if people want trees. One of the main things is not every address can be planted right away in every tree planting season. So one of the lessons learned from fall 2024 was there are some community members who are so excited about this and it's super awesome, but they want like 100 trees in their neighborhood like right now. And what I'm trying to do is encourage people to move and think at the speed of a tree. If the tree's expected and we want it to be benefiting us for 50 to 100 years, we really should be intentional about what tree species we're planting in what space, try to make the conditions better for the outcomes for that tree, and then really invest in that tree as a living being, so that we can get more years out of it rather than planting huge numbers of trees that we don't have the capacity to maintain thoughtfully right now. So, I love the excitement. I just always go at it with like, I want to hear who wants trees, who might not want trees, and why, and all those things. But we can't guarantee that your address will be planted like tomorrow, right? So we want to make sure we're finding that balance between new tree requests and like the urban forest planning process. We are trying our best. And with this fall, something that really helped us that we talked about, um, we said we were going to try this at the last tree committee meeting. We didn't know how it was going to go. Is we planted entire sections of streets at a time rather than planting like one tree here and there across the city. We tried to have clusters of five or more trees kind of in the same area. Number one, that makes a bigger impact on that place that may have not been invested in for a while than just one tree going in. It brings attention for that neighborhood. It brings pride for that neighborhood. So I'm gonna try to see if I can get multiple requests in tight areas and focus on those areas again. It's a lot easier to water trees when they're near each other. And I do have a question for you guys, kind of related to that, if that's okay. It is very hard to water trees. Um, I've seen people using 5 gallon buckets. 5 gallons of water. Water is like 8.5 pounds per gallon. So 5 gallons of water is very heavy for people to carry. And I got some feedback from some residents who were very excited to help take care of the trees. Then they went and tried it and they were like, this is too hard. So I would love to hear like what types of tree care people are most excited to do, how they envision being involved, and then I can try to come up with ways to support it and make it easier for them to be involved. So, um, we use those 5 gallon water cooler jugs that you have to flip upside down and put on the water cooler in the office. We use four of those per gator bag, which is the green bag around the tree. So carrying four of those is very heavy. You're going to get a big bicep very quickly if you're trying to do that. And not everyone can do it. So, um, yeah, any thoughts on watering would be really helpful.
Can I speak? Hi, Erica. Hello, everybody. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Erica, for everything that you're doing. And I know we had a real experience with you with the Floating Bridge Pond Association, where Dave and Ann Bowen, I think Dave's in the chat too. We went around the Floating Bridge Pond and things that I never really considered, or I never even thought of taking into account. So I just wanted to say thank you because you're bringing a whole different perspective, and I think for the community, I think it's great. So I appreciate all that you're doing. Please keep me updated. I'll stay in close contact with you so that we can continue working together. And I just want to say that I do have to go. I have another meeting at 7. So I appreciate you taking your time and giving us all this information. Would you be able to forward us your slides so that we can just read a little bit more, maybe share with some of my constituents?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, counselors, Counselor McLean and Counselor Matul. I really appreciate you guys coming to this meeting and appreciating the depth of the nerdiness about trees that I can go into monthly on this call. But yes, we do post all the slides. We post the video recordings. I'll send you a direct copy of these slides once I compile the questions and comments, which I like people to see. And yeah, we'll definitely share it out. Feel free to share it as far and wide as you like. I'll put the link to the urban forestry website in the chat right now. And there is a project underneath that. It can be kind of hard to navigate to. Um, but there's a project under that that is the Lynn Tree Committee's specific website. If people want to visit that, that's where we put the slides, and you can send those links to anyone as well and just say, hey, you like trees? Check out this. And that'll be good. But also, if you want flyers or if you want something else like that, we can work on doing that as well. Because I know it's been light on the communications while we were, swinging the pickaxe and getting those trees in the ground.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I see in the chat, fellow arborist Bianca. Bianca, thank you for coming. Bianca is recommending that if there is a tree company that uses liquid fertilizer, they have 2.5 gallon jugs. That's a great idea because we wanted to do like these branded watering jugs to give to community members who wanted to maybe adopt a tree in their neighborhood. So that's a great suggestion. And that can actually avoid some waste. So Bianca's saying get them to donate the jugs instead of putting them in the trash or recycling. I really love that idea. I think that's a great use. Hand them out to volunteers. Maybe we get a little Lynn Tree Committee or a Lynn Urban Forestry logo going so that people can feel a sense of community and see each other out there watering. I know some of the direct abutters of some of the trees we planted have been watering their trees. So if any of them are watching, thank you so much for doing that. That has been really amazing. And then contact a tree company close to you, like Bartlett, and ask them for the jugs. Much easier than a 5 gallon. So, Bianca, I super appreciate you, and I hope everything's going well with your tree inventory. Bianca actually is a Linner originally, so maybe we can expect to see more of Bianca over the coming planting seasons.
I'm gonna also praise you as other people have been praising you, Erica, for all the work that you've been doing. I'm like a little emotional thinking of like all the great work that you're doing, especially being from Lynn, born and raised, and coming back to Lynn, and also the climate of what Lynn is going through right now with the fires and just a lot of climate change and other really horrible things happening just more widely in the community. So it's really nice to see people who care about the work and care about the people here, especially. Um, and I wanted to also kind of think about using youth voices as a way of really um, stewarding this like very important initiative of taking care of trees and viewing trees in this very important light that it needs to be. Um, I know that you said that you had gone to these high schools, but I'm also thinking about maybe possibly middle schools or even elementary schools, like kind of networking some type of program or um, I don't know the exact wordings, but some kind of program where maybe you and a crew that maybe you've trained or you've worked with kind of getting out there in the community, because I think through children you can really impact adults. I think adults will listen to children and so forth. And so that might be a good idea of allowing like a deeper connection to trees. And ultimately, kids will become adults, and adults will run the world as it goes. So I think it's really important to get them, you know, kind of to understand the importance of trees within their own community.
Thank you so much. Yes, great ideas. I think as many levels of youth as we can engage, that's really like the why behind the work. I'm in the planning department. That's about planning for the future, and they are why we do this. I get really inspired by youth. Um, if I'm being just talking about myself, I usually connect best with the like kind of like the 16 to 35-year-old age range is like where my most experience is. I would love to like pair up with Marissa and you and folks on this call to kind of identify like which schools are being renovated, like who's taking care of the trees on the school grounds. Can the kids be involved in doing their own projects? I didn't even share on this call, but I do have a youth tree inventory that I think it's the Lynn English Environmental Club at the high school level. They're going to be able to like inventory the trees, make maps of them. But I think that the younger kids might have a better time with like mapping the trees. I did do one fourth grade class once where I took them out in the emerald necklace and I let them run my DBH, diameter at breast height. I let them see how long that tape was and then try to imagine a tree that was that big around that you would need a tape that long. So there are fun activities you can do. I would definitely want to reach out to like nonprofits or like youth education, like groups that are already experienced in relating to those youth, just kind of like pass them along some information and then have them like kind of lead it. Just because, I can't be saying DBH and diameter at breast height to, a fifth grade class. They will definitely glaze over and be like, what is this? What is she talking about? So, art projects with leaves and like poetry about trees and things like that, and getting kids out there for tree walks, maybe even intergenerational tree walks. I know the senior center went for a walk in the Pine Grove Cemetery after I came and talked to them about urban forestry. They did that kind of independently, which is really awesome. And so maybe there could be something where it's like youth and seniors get together and go out and look at trees. And yeah, I think there's a lot of potential. So any help and connections or names or emails or people you think would be good for that, um, definitely send them our way. They could join this call. This does usually get sent out to all the youth. I don't think they can usually make it at this time, so maybe adjusting the timing of the monthly meetings is something we need to consider.
Erica, I would like to invite you because the Youth and Adolescents Task Force is doing a workforce development tour, and we're introducing the task force to different programs, and then we're bringing someone along with us to introduce their career path to the teens. So just recently, we did it with the Boys and Girls Club, and we had Wendy Joseph introduce her career path as a curator at the GAR Museum. Next month, we'll be going to the Girls Inc., and maybe you would like to join us and introduce your career to the girls there. So I'll keep you posted on the date and time that we pick out, and maybe you could join us as the career person. I think that would be interesting to them.
That is so exciting. And I rarely talk about this on my like City of Lynn calls, but I am a climbing arborist like on my side job. And I usually bring fun things like pretty shiny tools. And this carabiner is a triple locking climbing carabiner. It's really hard to open. So what I do with the high school is I pass it around and I just say, I'm not going to tell you what that is or how to open it, but I want everyone in the room to try to open this. And then at the end, I tell them what it is and why it's so hard to open. And so I can bring a lot of cool gear, and I think kids really appreciate that part of it. So, Nicole, that would be so awesome if I could come. I've heard a lot about Girls Inc. I think it was something I heard about a long time before I came to Lynn, because I had heard about all the like different volunteer things they did, like sometimes in the Lynn Woods. So, yeah, thank you so much. Keep me in the loop, and if it, we'll see when it works out. I would love to be a career speaker for that.
Erica,
Yeah, hi Susan, how are you?
good, thanks. When Obed was talking and talking about the Floating Bridge Pond Association, that clicked as maybe a way of either um, for the watering, sort of watering groups or some other kind of community focused events, is that for somebody to identify all these different neighborhood groups there are and potentially reach out that way too. So it's proximity in addition to maybe having an interest in watering or maintaining or whatever, but within their own community.
That's a super awesome idea, Susan. I never thought of that, but if they're doing a park cleanup at Bennett Playground and we have trees with watering bags on them, maybe that just gets added as a simple like you know, yeah, just fill these up. I also know the Historic Diamond District Garden Club. They started this kind of watering exchange where like they'll have a monthly email of like if someone's going on a vacation, who can water the plants in the community, like the indoor plants. And I love that model of like maybe by neighborhood, people could have kind of a watering network of like, hey, did we as a community, as a little neighborhood or a sub neighborhood, like did we water the trees this week? Like that's cool. One thing I don't want to forget though is that like these trees that we're planting as part of these grants, they require 2 years of maintenance from us at the city. So if there are trees that can't be watered, like definitely we need to be watering them, not just relying on residents. So say there's a neighborhood where people don't have the capacity, the tools, or they're not interested in watering the trees. We still need to water those trees while that interest kind of builds. There can be a tendency for like people who are super enthusiastic about trees already, maybe not to realize that some neighborhoods don't have that, and like we need to like work together with what those residents want so that they can either get more into it or we can fill in for watering that they, don't need to be doing or don't have time to be doing. But I love your idea, Susan. I think the neighborhood groups, identify those, maybe Floating Bridge Pond Association. If there's trees within their area of focus, we can try to. I think the counselors would be pretty helpful with identifying some of that because they might be hearing from those groups, planning events with them. Um, so yeah, that's a great idea. I love it. Combined with Bianca's idea of getting the 2.5 gallon jugs, I think we've
Yeah,
solved it.
that's great.
Great work, tree committee. We're pretty snappy with these solutions. I love it.
I'm Shiloh. I'm a native plant enthusiast, and I specialize mostly these days in invasive species removal. I live in Ward 2. I've been here 20 years. I grew up on the North Shore. I went to Tracy School when I was a little kid, and I graduated Salem High School way back in 1991. Um, I love native plants, and I'm excited about the trees being put in Lynn in this urban project, but I just want to make sure that they're native. Um, and I would also love to be able to remove the non-natives, especially Norway maples. So if there's any Norway maples around, I will volunteer my time to cut them down, or even common buckthorn. I really despise those guys, or the burning bush, which is not supposed to be here and causing some trouble. So in my own yard, I've planted 42 trees in a single day once, just in one day, though those were mostly high bush blueberry. I have serviceberry, fragrant sumac, winterberry, and several different dogwoods. I I'm in love with native plants. I'm just overwhelmed by how different our landscape is once we brought in these really from the 80s, started bringing in these plants that weren't even from North America, let alone in our area. So anything I can do to help, I'm here to help. And anything I can do, even if it's just, carrying water, I'll carry the water. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shiloh. And for anyone else on the call who doesn't necessarily know much about invasive species, we haven't had this conversation as like a topic of one of these meetings, but I think we really need to because there's a lot of different nuance here. You hit on a lot of it, Shiloh. I love your energy. I love what you're bringing to this. I think it's so key that we have people who understand ecology and what ecoregion we're in and what plant communities are supposed to be here because a lot of times it gets missed, but trees are supposed to be in community too. There are guilds of trees, like you'll find an oak hickory forest that has oaks and hickories in the overstory, and it has a certain characteristic of the understory. So certain species really like to live together. They fix nitrogen for each other under the soil. Their roots connect together, and they send like if one tree's hurting, they'll send a warning and some nutrients back. They help each other out. They have a different, much different way of living than human beings, but they are supposed to be in diverse communities just like we are. And so it's very important what you're talking about, Shiloh. Invasive species, by definition, there is a definition and a list of species that we should not be planting. A lot of them are illegal to sell in Massachusetts. You will still find them at Home Depot, unfortunately. So Things like the Bradford pear, there are a lot of neighborhoods where folks have gone out and said, "Oh, I want to plant trees." They just pick the cheapest tree they could find. A lot of times those have been invasive trees, whether that means that they've damaged people's cars and things from having weak wood. Calorie pears tend to split apart in storms because of very tight branch unions and weak wood. They're hated by arborists now, but they're loved by people for the flowers. They're an invasive species, just like the Norway maple. Unfortunately, many of our mature shade trees in Lynn are Norway maples from the 70s, 80s. We cannot remove those because of the heat that would result from just massively removing all of our canopy. So what we need to do is think about the ones that are dead or the ones that are structurally compromised. Get those removed with the budget that we have and keep increasing that so that we can more actively go and remove Norway maples, replace with things like northern red oaks, swamp white oaks, tulip trees. Those are some of the species you saw on our chart. I am in favor of where it suits the place, so right tree, right place. Plant a native tree if possible to the ecoregion. I've also worked with a native plant trust before out of Framingham. I had bought a lot of trees from them when I was at Mass Audubon, and they actually will do native to the county. I love working with local growers, so an idea for this tree committee would be to start like a native tree nursery in Lynn at some point if there's land, space, equipment, people interested in doing that. We should keep that on the docket. Sounds like your yard would be a great place to harvest some seeds, Shiloh. I don't know. Maybe we'll come up with something like that in the future. We
You are
do not
welcome.
we might. The serviceberry, I'm interested. I actually propagate trees in my own backyard, and Pringles cans are really good for stuff with a taproot. So there's a piece of advice from a home gardener. But one thing is that we do not, in urban forestry, we do not recommend strict nativity of street trees because not all of those trees are adapted to living in a 5 by 5 by 10 tree coffin, and they're not always adapted to extreme heat, extreme cold, soil compaction, or salt. So where we have those like extreme issues, we might want to plant something that's more southern, especially as climate change shifts our hardiness zones and certain native species are getting range shifted, just like the moose did. The moose range used to be down into Massachusetts. Now moose have to live up north, farther up in New Hampshire. That happens to trees too, just takes longer. So one species of tree that we did plant two of this year was the Kentucky coffee tree. We also planted two American yellowwoods. Those are not native to Massachusetts, but they are climate adaptive street tree plantings. So with native plants, I'm all on board, but I'm not strict like native only. And it depends what you mean by native. So I just throw that in there. We do have 1 minute left, but I'm just saying that for people who might have something at 7. I'm willing to stay on and keep chatting. I do want to share just for a minute the uh oop, oh, I'm so bad at this, guys, huh? I want to share the next meeting. Are you seeing it? Next meeting, December 19th, 6
Yes.
p.m. We may change it. We may kind of put out an email to the group as a follow-up saying that this recording is available, asking when people would like to meet. It's really hard to find a time that works for everyone, but we do have a registration link. And I did want to also just say thank you. I really appreciate everyone listening to the long spiels about trees. It's great to see so many people registering and sending me that they want to come, but they can't, and they'll watch the recording. And I'm reaching out by email or by phone. I really enjoy talking to you all. So if anyone has to jump off, feel free. I'll stop sharing again and we can continue talking. Susan, did you have something to add? I didn't want to cut you off there.
No, no. Mm-mm.
How's Goldfish Pond doing? I know there's some big sugar maples down there.
Well, the fountains are out. It's quiet. It's quiet.
Nice.
Winter's coming, so there's preparation and cleanups and getting ready.
Everybody cross your fingers for snow, but not ice. We want snow, but not ice.
But good cold temperatures for skating on the pond. They're on occasion.
Can
It's,
we skate on the pond?
oh yeah, but
Oh
that's
my
unusual
goodness.
because it has to be just right where it's a, a freezing, quick freeze with no snow on top. But it's wonderful. I can look out my window sometimes and there are these folks just, you know, skating the pond.
You'll have to send me an email if you see them out there because I do have a pair of figure skates and
Uh,
my pastime to get the energy out when I can't be climbing trees is actually to go to a DCR rink during public skate hours because if it's free, it's for me. So there we go.
yeah, no charge at the pond.
All right. Any final thoughts from anybody on the call? Thank you so much for the time, everyone. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great night. See y'all in a future meeting.